Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for our presentation of the top 10 cloud computing strategies for commercial real estate. My name is Michael Griffin, and I'm the president and CEO of ClientLook CRM. Today you're going to see what we consider to be the best cloud computing strategies, services, and products that we think could have an immediate impact on your business. Now we'll focus a lot on the big picture benefits of these strategies, but I want to instill in you purposely a sense of urgency for moving to the cloud. I'll help you understand everything the online world has to offer, but it's important to also realize the limitations of the old desktop world. There are tremendous efficiencies to gain from moving online. Now, undoubtedly, we will have missed some really great services. In fact, don't be surprised if your favorite product or app isn't represented. This presentation is more about the broad strategies and industry trends that we're seeing in the cloud and less about specific companies. Where appropriate, though, we will highlight some great examples of how you can execute one of these strategies with some specific service. Okay, with that said, let's start with some common cloud questions that we get. I want you to understand some terminology so that we're all on the same page throughout the discussion. The first is, what exactly is cloud computing? So we get this question a lot, and the cloud or cloud computing is simply the use of computing resources like hardware or software that are delivered as a service over the internet. And ClientLook is an example of a cloud-based application. It's sold as a CRM service online, and you access it obviously through the internet, just like all the other services that you're going to hear about today. Now, you'll hear me talk a lot about the desktop. How is that different from the cloud? Well, the desktop really means, software that you run on your computer. Like Microsoft Office. You would get a disk from Microsoft Office and you would install it on your computer's hard drive. That's a desktop application, and you're accessing computer files and obviously an application that runs on your local computer. It just lives on that machine and not anywhere else. So the second question that we get a lot is, is the cloud safe? I'm putting all this important information online, and is it going to be prone to theft or whatever? And the way I like to think about this is pretty simple. The people that we use for hosting information, like Amazon or SoftLayer, for ClientLook CRM are serious big companies, and they take data security very seriously. From encryption to backups to virus protection, all of this is just a part of their service. They have far more capabilities than I ever had when I was keeping my information on my laptop. It was up to me to back it up. It was up to me to make sure it didn't get any viruses and to make sure I had all the updates for the operating system and the code that I was using, the applications I was using. All of that goes away in the cloud. So you entrust this data to somebody else. Sure, it seems sort of obscure and anonymous, but it is safer. The last point is, that we hear all the time is it really more cost effective? Is licensing something, paying a subscription fee, which is the way that most cloud-based services are sold. You pay a monthly or an annual subscription. Is that really more cost effective than me buying the software? Look, I can buy Microsoft Office and I own that, and I never have to pay for it again. Well, you don't, but you have to pay for upgrades. They sort of defer the cost. You could use it for a long time, but of course your feature set just keeps dwindling unless you buy the upgrade or unless you buy service. You try to call them after 90 days and you can't get any help, so you have to buy a service contract. So one way or another, they get you. And not to mention the fact that you have to buy more RAM on your computer or a bigger hard drive or a faster machine, or you have to buy a server or any of the things that are required when basically it's your responsibility to host the application and the data. In the cloud, it's the provider's responsibility. In ClientLook terms, we host everything. We host your information. We provide upgrades. You pay one fee, and we don't charge for service. That's typical. The typical scenario you're going to get from other companies as well. Okay, so I want to start the presentation with these takeaway points, kind of starting with the end in mind here. If you don't get anything else out of this presentation today. These are the basic things that that I would hope you would kind of glean. These are the concepts that you should really take to heart. And the first is simplify everything. You're going to hear me say simplify, simple, easy, intuitive over and over again with the product choices and the services that you're going to see profiled today. One of the big benefits of the cloud is how it helps you simplify your business, your life, by connecting everything together and eliminating all the hassle that you experience using desktop software. So try to come up with ways to make your life easier by simplifying your software, your hardware, your phone, and any processes that are taking time. Getting rid of this clutter and this chaos will make you more money, it will reduce stress, and it'll just make you happier. The technology you use is the first place typically to look, since it's so prevalent in our lives. Chances are that's one of the places where you're either wasting time or you could improve one way or another. Here's an example in the software development world of how things have changed. 15 years ago, I started a company called Aries for Act. It was a commercial real estate add-on for Act, and part of its claim to fame was its comprehensiveness. We had hundreds of fields. There were multiple databases. There were hundreds of reports. We had 2-day training classes. We had a 2-inch thick manual. Our support calls came in constantly. So flash forward 15 years later, I create a new CRM in the cloud. It is radically different. Our design premise and our goals are completely, distinctly different from what we did years ago. Nowadays, we assume, and I think rightly so, that no user is ever going to crack a manual. So ClientLook doesn't come with a manual, as an example. We assume that any feature that would require explanation to you won't get used. So everything that you see on the screen has to be something that you just know, okay, this is where I add a note. This is where I schedule a call, and that sort of thing. All software designers, at least the good ones, are doing that. Things like the iPad or the iPod, the iPhone are perfect examples. There's one button, on those things. The concept of the virtual keyboard is something 5 years ago I would have thought would have never worked. And now it's the way we live. So think about how you can simplify as you look and watch the presentation today. So the other big takeaway point is to innovate now. And I want to strongly urge you to implement as many of the strategies that you'll see today as possible. Now, you don't have to embrace all of them, but pick a couple and really put them into use now, today, tomorrow, but as soon as possible. Cloud computing is rapidly advancing, and you do not want to miss this train, believe me. The sooner you start, the quicker you get to enjoy all the new efficiencies, and I guarantee you that you have competition that's already way ahead of you. So a great example of this that I always think about is Borders Books. So here is this retail giant in the 90s that's selling books, and they have giant stores all over the place. If you're buying a book, chances are you're buying at Borders. So in the mid-90s along comes Amazon, and they have this novel concept that they can stock more books and probably sell more if they deliver and service everything through the internet. Borders basically ignores this whole business premise and thinks it's a waste of time until about 2001, when they finally decide to put up an online storefront, and ironically enough, they choose Amazon as their fulfillment partner. Well, the problem is by then the writing was on the wall. They'd missed the train. This train left the station without them, and they'd lost their competitive advantage. We know how this plays out. Amazon becomes the retail giant of the world, and Borders fades away. You do not want to be one of these people who is sitting on the sidelines watching this innovation pass you by. You need to get involved, and the momentum of it will carry you. Fortunately, the things that you're going to see today are simple. Any of them is easily implementable. Don't think that you have to have any IT experience or technical experience of all. That's one of the beautiful things about cloud applications, is they really simplify things to the point where you don't need to have technical staff involved. Okay, the last takeaway point is to differentiate yourself. Throughout this presentation, I want you to ask yourself, why me? Why me? I mean, when I say why me, I mean, why me from a competitive perspective? Why should a client choose you over the next guy? You need to build better relationships. You need to provide better client service. You need to outmarket and have better market knowledge than your competition. Technology is the easiest and the fastest way to do this in a way that will absolutely distinguish you from your competition. By adopting some of the cloud computing strategies, you're going to see you'll be able to outcall, outmarket, and outservice just about anyone. Okay, so let's move ahead with our first strategy. The cloud is not a fad. So what do I mean by this? I mean that, the cloud is here to stay. This isn't, the cloud is not disco. This is not something that's going to come and go. This is the way that all software, hardware is evolving. And as I said before, you need to get on board with this, now. One of the things I like to say, in regards to this concept is that the desktop is dead. And I'll give you some insight into the software development world. Aside from software developers that are making things for graphic designers or for video editing, nobody is creating desktop software. So it's kind of like in commercial real estate, an asset class that nobody wants to build anymore. That's obviously not something to necessarily invest in because there's no future in it. The desktop is like that. So one strong recommendation I would have for you is that do not choose a desktop application when there is a viable online cloud-based alternative. Even if that online alternative is not as feature complete as the desktop, still go the way of the web, because using a desktop application is going to dig a hole. If you're one of the majority of commercial real estate professionals out there that is using desktop software, you've dug a hole now at this point that you need to dig yourself out of. File management, spreadsheets, CRM, all of these things, you're going to need to migrate online. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. Okay, the next point is that we are experiencing a paradigm shift, which I've only seen one other time in our industry. 15 years ago, when I was selling Aries Fract, the paradigm shift at the time was moving from paper to a computer. Literally, I had to, make the case when selling Aries for many people that they needed to buy a computer because they were using a Rolodex, 3x5 cards, a day planner, and they would argue that they're more productive than using a computer. Now, that argument seems silly nowadays, just as in years to come, saying I really want to keep using my desktop software is going to sound silly. So the idea now of going from the desktop to the cloud is real. It's an entire paradigm shift that the world is going through. Now, I'll tell you one quick analogy, which is that just as the desktop is dead and nobody is inventing new desktop software, it is equally as challenging to migrate a desktop application to the web. Microsoft is trying it with Microsoft Office. ACT is failing trying to migrate their contact manager to the web. It is a daunting task because applications that aren't born online don't make the transition well. So don't be one of those people who's holding out for their desktop application to become a web tool. It's probably not going to happen. And even if it does, what you're going to find online is going to be a poor representation of what you found on the desktop. Find an application that was created natively online because otherwise you're going to suffer from too many incompatibilities. Okay, last point here is eliminate what I call legacy technology anchors. Now, if you think about it, a lot of the reason why you need an office today is to hold all your technology. It's where you keep your computers, your file server, your paper files, your printer, your phone. Now, the cloud eliminates all of these things and things that you had to previously plug in together and upgrade and and have space for. And it allows you the freedom to work anywhere. You want to be able to use any web-enabled device, phone, iPad, anything that might come out in the future. You want to work on any browser, any operating system, and you want to work from anywhere without hokey VPN logins or log me in or go to my PC or anything like that. Those are band-aids on problems that need to be fixed now. So get rid of those legacy technology anchors, and you'll find that you have a new perspective on where you can work, how you can work, when you can work. And this obviously has bigger ramifications with office users or any sort of space occupiers in general, because all the technology that used to be taking up in some cases rooms is no longer required. Okay, let's move on to strategy number 2, move your office online. Now, by this I mean those office tools, Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, your email, all those things that you used to run locally, meaning in your office, on your hard drive, on your server, are now in the cloud, primarily in the form of Google Apps and in Microsoft Office 365. But they are perfectly suitable for all the word processing, all the spreadsheet needs you might have online. A great example of this is email, and I'll give you a live example of this here. Okay, so here is our Google Apps email. I'm using Chrome as a browser. One of the commitments that we made at ClientLook when I started it was that we were going to be entirely virtual when it comes to our systems. We weren't going to own any hardware in terms of, for networking purposes. We weren't going to install any software. Everything that we used was going to be online, and we've achieved that. One of the things that we use Google Apps for is email. So this is something that I would recommend to any company that's starting out that needs an email program as a replacement for Microsoft Exchange. If you're a company that has Exchange, you can migrate to Google Apps. Sperry Van Ness is a perfect example. I don't know, 1,200, 1,500 people they took from a Microsoft Exchange server that was prone to trouble, and downtime just like every other Exchange server, and they migrated everything and everybody into Google Apps. It costs $50 per person per year, and I'm sure on large-scale deployments there's economies of scale. You can still use Outlook. When we rolled out Google Apps here and for our email, I used Outlook for the first year. And by the way, email that flows through Google Apps is still clientlook.com. There's nothing about a Google email address that you have to get. It's completely independent of that. But I choose to use their online Google Apps email client here, which works great. You'll notice as I click an email, you see the preview pane on the right. It has everything that Outlook used to present to me. It didn't always have this, but in the last year, it's become super capable. So now I can log into my email from anywhere. Okay, the other thing I want to tell you about while I'm here in the browser is spreadsheets. So this is an example of a Google Apps, Google Doc spreadsheet. Microsoft Office 365, I'm sure, has a comparable one, but this is a spreadsheet in a browser. So instead of using Excel, and I was a Excel power user, we do all of our spreadsheet computation, any of our lists, anything that we need online. We save this in our online file storage, which I'll tell you more about in a few minutes, but it's great. So this same sort of utility exists in Google, at least in a word processor sort of format. And again, Microsoft has, I'm sure, a Word online tool that would allow you to migrate that. But start thinking about getting your applications, things that you historically always found on your desktop, online. Okay, so we talked about word processing and spreadsheet. The last thing I'll tell you about with moving your office online is Google Voice, because one of those things that always kind of keeps us anchored to our office is our phone. That's where my phone is. That's where my desk is. Google Voice is a free service for Google that really gives you freedom with your telephony. I'll give you an example from my personal case. So 3 years ago, I elected to go online to Google Voice and get a Google Voice number. Now, I could have ported my office number or my cell phone number to this, but I chose a new phone number. It's up to you. But this is now the one number that I hope will be the last phone number I ever have. This number I'll give to you. When you call me, it will ring my cell phone, my office phone, my home phone, whatever phone numbers I connect to it simultaneously. So in my case, I have my desk line and I have my cell phone connected to Google Voice. They both ring. If I'm sitting at my desk, I pick up my office phone. If I'm in the field, I pick up my cell phone. If I don't pick up either of them, it takes a common voicemail, which it emails to me. So there's no more leaving a message at the office, leave a message on my cell phone, call me at my cell phone because I'm not sitting at my desk. I have one number that makes it far more convenient for my callers to access. But over and above that, it's more convenient for me because I just check one voicemail service. I give people one number and it's easy. We went on vacation. We rented a house. It had a dedicated phone line. I attached it to Google Voice. I could dial out on that, and it masked that number with my Google Voice caller ID, and I could call people, and they didn't know if I was sitting in a vacation home or sitting in my office. It works great. I'll give you an example here of one other application of Google Voice. Okay, so here I am in ClientLook, and over on the left, you'll see a variety of phone numbers. So one of the things ClientLook lets you do is store, as many phone numbers as you want for somebody. So I'm running in Google Chrome here. So there's a plugin that actually creates hyperlinks out of all the phone numbers that I have. So what I can do is click one of these phone numbers, and it asks me where I want the call connected to: my office, to my home, to my iPhone, Google Talk. When I click connect, my office line will ring, and then it will connect the call, in this case, to George Adams. So this is effectively auto-dialing in the cloud, which has never really been possible. We used to do it in the ACT days years ago, but you had to have a special phone and a special card in your computer, and it was a pain. This is great. I haven't dialed a phone number in, I don't know, a couple years, I suppose. I auto-dial everybody just by clicking their name. So I strongly suggest you look into Google Voice. Okay, so Google Apps, Microsoft Office 365, that's your go-to sources for really moving your office online. All right, let's move on to strategy number 3. So don't send your own emails. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically I mean use a third-party email service to send your broadcast emails. I still hear about people, desktop CRM users in particular, who are sending their own emails out through their software. And let me tell you why this can be a really bad idea and why you should consider making a change. Now, I'll use Outlook as an example because it has a really easy email merge function, but this example applies to ACT or things like REA. They're all equal offenders. Now, in Outlook, you can create a template and then merge it with a list of recipients that are usually in a spreadsheet. And then Outlook sends each recipient a customized message from you. The problem with this is that these emails usually come from your company's domain. A domain is basically your website name, like clientlook.com in our case. Now, all it takes is for enough recipients of your email to complain to the appropriate agencies, and your site can actually be blacklisted. So what this means is that not only your bulk emails could be blocked in the future, but also your individual message. And it's worse. This affects not just you, but everyone else in your company. So it's really bad. Now, instead of all of that potential hassle, use a third-party cloud-based service to handle this. Now, you can still organize all your contact data in the CRM of your choice, and then you just export the list whenever you want to send out some marketing emails. So aside from assuming the liability for sending your messages, these outside services typically have better deliverability. Deliverability is, how many messages get sent and actually are delivered into the mailboxes of your recipients. These services do a great job of ensuring that your messages make it, that they're not getting blocked by spam filters and a variety of other things that cause a lot of emails not to be delivered, when they're sent in bulk. They also provide really great statistics. So let's say you send out a mailer with a brochure to 1,000 prospects. These systems will tell you how many people clicked on it, who clicked on it, what links they clicked on, did they forward the message, all kinds of different statistics that basically let you identify of the 1,000 people who are the interested parties based on their behavior within the message that you sent. And the last is mobile optimization. And this is something that really only occurred to us recently, where we would send out emails to broad groups of people, And we came to realize through these third-party email services that our emails were being opened more than 50% of the time in mobile devices, like a Droid device, an iPhone, an iPad, whatever, which rendered the email very differently than in something like Outlook. But what we also discovered was these email services will provide templates that have code within them that will render an email one way if your recipient opens it on their iPhone, and another way if they open it in Outlook, which means they're far more likely to read it, to respond, and to provide you the kind of marketing response that you need. So good tools along these lines include something like MailChimp, which is our current favorite, Constant Contact, which has been around for a long time, and iContact. So explore those cloud-based tools. They're all great. And like I said, the way that you typically work with them is export from whatever you're using to maintain your lists and import into those services to send out. Okay, let's get on to our fourth point now, which is eliminate paper. Now, this is the concept of, the paperless office, right? The terminology has been around for years, but it's only recently, last couple of years, where this has really become a reality. Primarily because access to documents is so fast now, and it's safe, and it's really cheap. In many cases, you can get by with free services that don't cost you anything. So there are a couple of strategies and tips that I have for you along these lines. The first is to request everything electronically. Now this applies to bank statements, stock statements, anything that you might be sent in the mail. See if there is an electronic alternative. People are going to send you something. See if they can provide you that in a digital format. And in the same way, attempt to do that with the people that you're sending content to, knowing that it's far easier for them to assimilate, organize, store whatever you're sending them if it's in electronic fashion. The next point is to ditch your file server. Now, this is a sure way to expedite the process of moving everything online. Without a file server, obviously you can't do that. But there are ways to emulate a file server, which I'll show you, in the cloud, which allow you to go to a website basically and see exactly the same file contents as you otherwise would have on your desktop. Part of the strategy here for the paperless office is a scanner. There are still things that you're going to get paper-wise, contracts, agreements, whatever that you need to scan. A good explanation of this, there is a Sperry Van Ness broker named Bo Barron, who is a great client look champion, who just wrote a blog about the paperless office and how to achieve that. He even goes so far as to tell you the hardware that he uses and how he does it. So look up Bo Barron paperless office, and you'll see a description of what he recommends. But your ultimate goal is that you want to be able to access files anywhere. And by anywhere, I mean not only in your office and your home, but I mean on your mobile device, on your tablet. And this doesn't mean through a VPN or LogMeIn or one of those services, which is just to basically tie you into your running desktop service and let you get to your files. That's not it. And that's a Band-Aid again on a problem that you need to solve. So the services that you can look at include Google Drive, Dropbox, Evernote. Evernote has a little twist on it. It's not really file storage. It's more, idea storage or photo storage that you organize via tags. But the other services, provide you anywhere from 5 gigabytes in the Google Drive case, 2 gigabytes in Dropbox for free. And then adding, file space is pretty cost effective. So let me give you an example of how we use Google Drive in our case. Okay, so here is, what should look familiar to you in some senses. This is a folder structure. You'll see the folders along the left, folders and files and various dates and things like that. This is reminiscent of Windows Explorer. You click into a folder, it'll show you the contents. It's very fast. It's all searchable. In the case of Google, it's searchable. Even the file contents, they'll search. So this is how we organize files. I can hire anybody anywhere and plug them into our file infrastructure here, and I can dictate down to the file who has access to what, who can just view things, who can edit it, who can download it, who cannot. So there's all kinds of permissions in here that are super simple. You can even share folders and files with outside people. So your clients, you could create a folder for a project and share it with your client and just dump stuff in there that you want to make accessible. And you can hide it from the rest of the people in your office if you chose to. So explore the services that I recommended, but this is one of the very fundamental strategies for helping you achieve efficiency in the cloud. Okay, so let's move on to strategy number 5, which is do deals, not research. So by this I mean, don't get hung up with trying to do research and things for which there are viable services that you can buy. And in fact, my recommendation is to buy as much quality research as possible for as broad a geography as you can. When I was starting out as a broker, it always felt productive to, be inventorying properties and tracking square footages and fields and, basically, emulating at the time a research service which didn't exist. But nowadays, these services and the data is everywhere. So don't do things that other people can do more cheaply. So in essence, focus on relationship building. That's the way you build your business, and not research. Again, focus on deal making. Do deals in a broader geography. I'm going to touch on this in another slide, but this is a great way to increase your obviously your income, is being able to have the capability to do deals in broader geographies than just your local market or your small territory. And then lastly, be productive in the field. I don't know if you've seen the iPad apps from CoStar, Xceligent, LoopNet, but they are outstanding. They make data access super simple, and they put, for the first time, they put access to this information in the hands of brokers that I suspect were not the typical consumer of the Xceligent service, as an example. It might have been the research person who would run reports otherwise. But now in the field, people are pulling up their subscription data and they're providing information to their clients, or they're servicing their own needs while they're in front of a building or at on a property tour or whatever the case may be. So look for tools, obviously, that have those mobile capabilities. Okay, let's move on to strategy number 6 here, which is to finally get serious about CRM. So this may or may not apply to you, but our research shows that the vast majority of the commercial real estate brokerage world does not yet use a CRM. And I do not include Outlook as a CRM. So if you're an Outlook user, sorry, you've got a lot of efficiency to gain, and you can't really count that as a CRM. The goal with using a CRM is to turn every call, every client interaction into an opportunity. And you do that by having more information available to you, at every turn. So you need instant access to contact details. While you're working, while you're conversing, when you're coming back from meetings, you need to be able to record everything you do. This is one of the things that Google Contacts, your phone, Rolodex, Outlook lack. You can't really record in an eloquent way, in an effective way, what you do. You can dump in some notes and things, but that's hokey. It's not an effective way to really categorize things. So being able to record what you do is simply, in a CRM system, one of the most powerful things that you can do. Now, lastly, when it comes to CRM, you need mobile access, and you need to be able to sync. Now, with mobile access, again, log me in, go to my PC, VPNs, those don't count. If you're using those sorts of tools, you're a candidate for a change, because that's not efficient. That's not cloud. It's just not right. Mobile access means that you can get to your data through your phone, through your iPad, from your from your home, from anywhere that you have internet access. Why? Because your data lives in the cloud. It's not living back on some desktop or some server that you have to tap into, which really has a single point of failure. You're not going to be able to expand your business. You're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be competitive if that's the way that you're living. So some examples of CRMs, ClientLook, obviously the business that we're in. Salesforce is a great one. I have experience personally with Salesforce as a user in the past. One of the key concepts that they tell you about is simple and to simplify. I would never use Salesforce and simple in the same sentence. It's a great institutional sort of tool, but not really for the common salesperson. HighRise is a super simple tool. In many cases, too simple. It's worth a look because they have a lot of users, but it's not really commercial real estate related. But with all that said, let me give you a glimpse of what ClientLook looks like to give you an idea of the kind of intuitiveness we strive for. Okay, so again, here is the ClientLook contact screen. Now, compare this, if you are a CRM user, compare this to what you're using now. Again, our goal is to provide intuitive features by design that don't require any training, no learning curve. So if you want to add an update, it should be pretty obvious that you add it here where it says, what's your update? If you want to add a file, you do it there. We don't hide things behind buttons or links or keyboard shortcuts or, 2 or 3 menu items deep. Design these days and successful products are those things that really help you do things simply. And obviously, I could have chosen any business to become involved in. Cloud-based CRM is what I really feel is a distinguishing capability of any successful broker. So, if you're not using a CRM, I would strongly consider, doing it. Most of them, ClientLook included, allow you to import data. So if you've built up years worth of information in just about any application, you can electronically transfer. So don't ever think that because you're embedded in something that you're stuck, because you're not. Okay, let's talk about strategy number 7, collaborate with clients. Using project management for better service. So since the cloud is essentially one big shared network, it's great for collaboration. Now this strategy is all about collaborating with your clients through project management, and it applies to every specialty. The main goal here is to automate reporting and communication processes that are still typically so painfully antiquated for so many companies. So here's an example. Let's assume that you're a landlord rep broker who is not using a project management system, and you need to provide a report of your activity to your owner. Now, too often we still see people scrambling at the end of the month to deliver stale, static reports that take hours to compile. You're looking through emails, your calendar, your notepad, and you're trying to put it all together. Your reports are instantly outdated, difficult to read, and certainly difficult to create. If this sounds like you, then this should be one of the strategies that you prioritize. So let's compare the same reporting process to someone who uses an online project management system. The end of the month reports are a non-event since your clients can log in anytime to see the latest scoop on their deals. Your emails, your updates, your files, and prospect lists flow electronically into your projects every day, so you never need to spend any time compiling data. This is electronic transaction management, and within the next couple of years, it's how every deal will get done. If your clients haven't started asking about your strategy for online access yet, then they will soon. We live in an on-demand world, and people expect to be able to use the internet to get to everything. Now, this transparency may scare some of you, and it should if you're not providing good service. And by and large, though, this strategy will help you get deals done faster, keep your clients better informed, and significantly help improve your internal efficiencies. And plus, it's easy to implement. Now, there are a few guidelines that I'd like to suggest you, though, and these include: first, integrate with CRM. So let's say that you're busy working in your CRM since you're using that to build better relationships as suggested previously. That's great. But everything you're doing needs to integrate with whatever project management tool you choose. Otherwise, you're forced to replicate everything you do in 2 places, which I can tell you won't get done. External project management tools like this always fail because they end up creating more work. In ClientLook, for example, we solve this problem by deeply integrating project management into all of our CRM features. So everything you do can be tagged to one or more projects, which makes your work unbelievably easier. Full collaboration. So don't adopt any project management tool that doesn't provide full collaboration for both your team and your client. So what do I mean by collaboration? Well, everyone involved in a project should be able to log in online and add updates, download files, upload files, add comments. Settling for some kind of glorified online static report won't cut it. And I can tell you that your competition will run circles around you. The key here is to provide information and engage your clients by allowing them to collaborate. Lastly here, offline capability. So let's face it, you're going to have clients who aren't tech savvy or just won't log into your online projects no matter how easy it is. To accommodate these folks, make sure that the solution you choose offers the ability to export data and create a report whenever you want. This way you benefit from all the internal organizational gains and you still satisfy any type of client. Once you integrate project management into your business as described, you've got a whole new story to tell. This is one of the strategies that can really help you differentiate, like we talked about before. You become the broker who has a totally modern, totally distinguishing way to deliver service. This will help you win business. If you don't believe me, then wait until you go up against a broker who's got this wired. You won't be able to compare. Okay, the tools to consider are ClientLook, as I described. Real Capital Markets does a great job of transaction management on the investment side for the higher end. And then Basecamp is a super simple project collaboration tool. They've got lots of users, so it's worth a look. Okay, let's move ahead now with strategy number 8. Business should follow you. Integrate for optimum mobility. So this is an overall guideline for choosing the various tools in the other strategies that we've discussed. The important point here is that you integrate as many of your solutions as possible through the cloud to really gain efficiency. And this includes a common address book and a calendar. We talked about the inefficiencies before of having one database on your phone and another one online. You need one database that connects to everything online. You should be able to access your database from the home, from your home, at your office, on your phone, on your tablet. Changes that you make anywhere should automatically be distributed without the need for any manual sync or desktop software or having to plug your phone into something. Using LogMeIn or GoToMyPC or some other kind of network VPN doesn't count. These tools are a sure sign that you need to make a change, and fast. Think about the ClientLook example I gave you earlier where I added a contact to my iPhone and it synced to my online database and the tablet I have connected. I add an appointment to ClientLook online and it flows down to my devices. I set all this synchronization up once and I forget about it. You need this kind of convenience. Files everywhere. We talked about this in our eliminate paper strategy, but I want to drive home the idea that you need to have access to files from any location and any device for this really to be effective. All the solutions that we talked about before make this possible. Your challenge is making the migration. So whatever solution you choose, it should work with your mobile devices, your computer, and the browser that you like. Now, OS browser and device independence. Ideally, any cloud-based tool you choose should work on any operating system, Windows or Apple. It should work on any browser like Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari, Firefox, and any device such as your phone or your tablet. Don't let a solution dictate how you should use it. This will reduce your ability to gain efficiency with everything else. As a mobile commercial real estate professional, you want to have the ability to work anywhere so that you're not tied to an office or even a geography necessarily. Know that the cloud is your ticket for making this a reality. All right, next we're going to move on to strategy number 9. Expand your geography. Now, The whole premise of this strategy is to use the cloud to increase your ability to do deals in a broader geography. And ideally, this means that you're doing more deals. Now, back when I was a broker, I worked in a very specific geography, and since there weren't good information services available yet, I had to spend a lot of time gathering market data. I had to keep my territory small since I didn't have the time to track more buildings and tenants, but that's all changed. The data providers out there now have made it possible for you to rapidly develop a competency in a much larger geography. Plus, because you have access to property inventory information, you can gain insight into the properties a company or an investor occupies and owns like never before. This means that you're able to handle deals and clients in more areas, provided you adapt some of these suggestions. So the first is to get research data everywhere. If you're able to license national research data, this is valuable for the listing and comp information, but perhaps even more valuable for expanding your geography from an inventory perspective in these outside markets. With national data, you can talk to someone about properties anywhere. Check with your local information provider about your options. And one of these days, someone will figure out how to combine all this research data with a CRM to make a truly full service solution. Use web conferencing tools. You're going to have clients who aren't located in your market. Let's say you want to represent a company or a property locally that's owned by someone in another state or another country. Using web conferencing tools, you'll be able to connect to anyone, anywhere, to provide presentations. And these days, you can even incorporate HD webcam video. Now, we use GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar here, but there are lots of other great services like WebEx and even free ones like Join.me. Have a web presence. If you're going to do deals outside your main territory, you're going to encounter people who don't know you or know of your work. Most of the time, these people will start with a web search to do some research on you. And I think there are two main places that you need to pay attention to. The first is your website. Make sure you have a complete bio describing your specialty, your interest, your family life, and the companies that you've worked with in the past. Assume that everyone you're working with will always look you up on your website. The other place that people go to find information on you these days is LinkedIn. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is comprehensive with employment and education backgrounds. Get some recommendations and certainly a photo. I remember reading somewhere that profiles without a photo had only 40% of the effectiveness as profiles with one. Either way, beef up LinkedIn so it looks good too. Using the cloud to increase your business by doing more deals in more places is something anyone can do. Focus on implementing as many of the suggestions here as possible over time so you're fully equipped. Okay, let's move on to our last strategy, number 10. Don't work for free. So right off the bat, this should sound pretty obvious, right? Nobody wants to work for free. However, I'll suggest that every day you do your own data entry, presentation creation, and research, you're doing exactly that. Whether you realize it or not, you're probably spending a chunk of every day engaged in tasks that somebody else could do for you either free or at a price that's ostensibly free. How could this be possible? The cloud has spawned a growing legion of what are called virtual assistants that work outside your company, it doesn't really matter where, and perform tasks for you virtually. Since your applications are in the cloud, these assistants can log in remotely and help do all those things that keep you from reaching peak productivity. They cost next to nothing, or certainly far less than it costs you to do the work yourself, and it could be exactly what you need to move your business to the next level. The trick is quickly identifying the products, services, or companies that fit this model so you can get on the road to more deal making. Here's an example. As a cloud-based CRM provider, we're well aware of what it takes for the average ClientLook user to maintain their CRM account. It's a consistent time investment. They have to add new records, log updates, schedule activities, import files, and lots of other things. This kind of work is absolutely critical for successful business and relationship building, but it's never the optimum use of a salesperson's time. So We pioneered a special team of virtual assistants who are ClientLook experts trained to carry out requests that our subscribers send their way. The service is unlimited and it's free. Our subscribers can leave a voicemail or send an email 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. For example, lots of people use the virtual assistant team to log updates. They call when they're leaving a meeting to say, I just met with Michael Griffin and we spoke about their new office space. I presented 716 Hollywood Drive. Please schedule a follow-up call for next Tuesday. Someone on the ClientLook virtual assistant team listens to this voicemail and accesses the subscriber's account through the cloud. Then they log the update, relate it to a project, and schedule the follow-up call. A real person is performing this work, so there's no transcription error, and a personalized confirmation is sent when everything's done. Meanwhile, the subscriber is on to their next appointment. They don't have to take the time to log this update themselves, since their time is better spent elsewhere. And more importantly, the outcome of the meeting and the follow-up call don't fall through the cracks. How often has that happened to you? We get calls from people in the middle of the night with a list of tasks they want scheduled for the next day. People email business cards they've scanned that they want entered into ClientLook. The list goes on and on. If you're fortunate enough to have a dedicated assistant that knows your CRM system inside and out, then you're all set. If not, then look for solutions that offer the kind of personalized virtual assistant service that you need to stay focused on deal making and not data entry. Otherwise, you're simply working too hard. Another example is called REIWise, an investment analysis tool that offers a concierge service for creating presentations for you. I'm not sure what they charge for this, but those guys obviously get it. There are also lots and lots of third-party virtual assistant firms out there that will work with you on an hourly basis to do just about anything. They can help with your database or even make dinner reservations. The only problem with these outside groups is that they're never trained in the applications you use, which means you have to train them, and the turnover is high. You kind of get what you pay for. Either way, the main point here is that the cloud makes this type of virtual assistant arrangement possible for the first time. There are now resources available to anybody to help with all those tasks that keep you from more important things. So take some time to analyze your daily workflow and try to figure out where you could outsource. If you find the right provider, then it will really make you more effective and could dramatically improve your business. All right, well, here's the complete list of our top 10 cloud computing strategies for commercial real estate. And we've covered everything from specific online technology tools to broad business practices designed to help you leverage the cloud. I want to see everyone in our industry succeed, which is why I'm so passionate about being a technology messenger. These strategies offer some of the fastest ways I know to achieve new levels of business success in the shortest amount of time. Again, I want to reiterate that with any product or service you consider, please keep in mind the need to simplify everything, innovate now, and differentiate. These three things will help ensure that you make the right cloud-based technology choices that will serve you for years to come. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. We want to hear from you, so feel free to provide any feedback by writing to us at webinar@clientlook.com. A lot of the focus today was shaped by input from people just like you. We plan to put together a revised list for you again in the coming months, so if you're not getting our monthly newsletter, then make sure you sign up. That way we can let you know when we've got some new strategies to share. You can find everything you need for staying in touch at clientlook.com. I'm Michael Griffin, and thank you for attending today. I wish you the best and good luck in the cloud.